Hey guys, it's Jerry with The Busy Boarder, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to wax your board from home. Let's get into it. So the first thing you're probably wondering, is it even worth it to wax your board and to learn how to do this from home? And I would definitely say yes, it is worth it, depending on how often you go snowboarding. If you're only going once a year, once or twice, then maybe it's not worth it. But if you're going multiple times a year, maybe every weekend or something like that, it is worth it, and it's totally learnable. It's not super hard to learn, it's not complicated, and the tools that you need are definitely worth buying as well. They're not super expensive or hard to get. So I would definitely encourage you to learn it if you're up for the challenge. The most important tool that you're going to need for waxing your board is obviously the iron. I know you can invest in a snowboard specific iron, a flat iron, but I haven't found that it's really necessary at all. I bought this one at a local appliance store and it worked really great. It was super cheap, maybe like $50, and it works really well. So definitely invest in the iron. You do not need to spend hundreds of dollars on that. Obviously, the next thing you're going to need is a good chunk of board wax. No, you cannot use candle wax or anything like that. You need board specific wax. And you do need to pay attention to the temperature ratings. Certain wax are meant for cold weather, some are meant for warm weather. So just pay attention to the temperatures you're going to be riding in. I prefer an all-weather wax because I live in a more temperate climate here and tends to do the job really well. The next thing you're going to need is a good scraper. This one is really meant for a snowboard. It's nice and wide. It's got a sharpened tip on the edge here for some of those hard to reach areas. It has a little notch in the corner, clean off the edges, and it works really well. It's kind of flexible too, which will come in handy, and I'll show you why. You are also going to be needing a degreaser to clean off the board. I use this brake cleaner, which actually works really well. It doesn't damage the board and gets all the grease and dust and dirt off the board. You can also get specific board cleaning spray from your local snowboard shop, and it works well too. Also, we're going to be needing a brush. There are snowboard specific brushes of various stiffnesses. I just bought this, I think, at a local hardware store. I don't know if it's a horse brush or what it is, but it also does the trick. So you don't need to spend a ton of money on the brush. Because we're doing this from home, I'm just improvising. I have a big chunk of cardboard here just to lay down to, collect the wax and prevent my floor from getting scraped and dirty. So got that. Also, you're going to need a couple of spans or boxes to place the snowboard on. I've just got these IKEA boxes that work quite well. Just lay the board on top of those. You might have something else at home. Ideally, you want to have snowboard clamps that can clamp to a table and you can just set your board on top of that. Those are readily available. You can order them online. Maybe a local snowboard shop has those. So if you have a place to clamp your board or a table to clamp it onto, definitely get one of those. They work a lot better than these boxes I'm going to be using. And finally, you're going to need a broom and dustpan to clean up all the wax shavings that are going to be flying around the room. Now you're probably wondering, when is it time to actually wax the board? And that all depends on how often you ride, what terrain you're riding on. If you look at the bottom of your board, usually the first thing you'll see is the whitening of the edges. When the board is waxed, the color is nice and full, but when it's needing wax, it looks really dry and kind of thirsty. So this board here is really white along the edges here. I could probably get a couple more rides out of it, but I'm going to wax it now because I like my board to be nice and fast when I go out on the snow. So the first thing we're going to want to do now to prepare our board is, it's a good idea to take the bindings off. If you don't, you may end up with some divots where the binding anchors are. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to pop these bindings off. One thing I really like to do before I take my bindings off is just mark where they are with tape, because it can sometimes be quite a pain when it comes time to putting your bindings back on and knowing where you had them last. Sometimes it's hard to find where you had them. So I'm just going to get some tape, just place them, beside the binding where it is roughly. And then I'll have a good idea as to where they were when I go to put them back on. Okay, now we get to move on to the fun stuff. I've got my iron plugged in. It's heated up here. Suggestion is about 120 degrees Celsius, give or take. And once you see that it's hot enough, you can see the old wax is starting to steam off a little bit. Probably a good indicator that it's ready to go. So I'm just going to get my wax now and gently apply it to the iron. You can apply maybe just the corner of the wax. You don't have to put the whole thing into it. And what I like to do is just first start with the edges of the snowboard. Maybe put 2 lines right along the edges there, because that's normally where the snowboard is the thirstiest. And then from there, I'll put in a couple more lines about the width of the iron itself. So you'll probably end up with, 4 or 5 lines going across the board. And you might want to end with a bit of a zigzag line of wax as well. The wax itself, when you're applying it, it should be like a thin bead of wax. You don't want it to puddle or to build up at all. Just a nice thin bead as you go along. The drips can also be separated by about 1 centimeter or so. They don't have to be doesn't have to be one continuous line of wax. It can be somewhat separated. And when it comes to spreading out the wax with the iron, obviously keep your iron moving. You don't want to keep it sitting in one spot. It might damage the board, although that's kind of hard to do, so don't freak out. Just use circular motions and trying to get the wax evenly spread along the board. Here I'm going nice and slow, not freaking out too much. I want to get that wax all melted around. You can even push it a bit into the corners if you get really good at it. I'm kind of putting pressure on this one edge to get the wax pushed on to the edge where I want it. And I'll come back the other way here. Go down the middle. You do want to get some wax on the nose as well. It doesn't get a lot of friction from the snow, but it's good to add some wax to the front as well, just to keep it consistent with the rest of the board, but you don't need a lot of wax on it. Okay, so I've done some circular motions around the edges and in the middle just to get the wax spread out. Now I'm going to do a couple long passes to kind of smoothen it all out. And you might be wondering, are you heating up the board too much, or when is it too much? If you put your hand on the underside of your board, you can get an indication of where things are at. If it's feeling cool, then you've got some room to keep ironing and waxing, melting the wax. But if it's feeling really warm or even hot, then it's time to back off a bit. But right now my board's still feeling pretty cool underneath here, so I'm doing good. Doing nice long passes, sort of halfway. Now I'm going to go the entire length of the board, just to really smoothen it all out. Smoother you can get it, the easier it is going to be for scraping. You won't have to use so much elbow grease. So that's it for the waxing part of the job here. Now we want to let the wax cool for about 20 to 30 minutes at room temperature. If you really want to speed up the process and you're in a hurry, you could put the board outside and let it cool a bit faster. It's not ideal, but that's a possibility as well. If you can leave it overnight indoors, that's even better. Then you know the wax has been fully cured and is ready for scraping. Okay guys, it is time for some scraping. I've got my scraper here ready to go. It's recommended that you scrape from tip to tail in the direction of travel. So I'm gonna do that here as much as I can. Because I don't have my snowboard on a clamp, it's hard to truly go tip to tail. Right now, as you can see, I've got the snowboard and up against the wall here, so I've got some leverage for scraping. So I'm going to scrape about 3/4 of the way across, and I'm going to turn the board around and continue the rest of the way there. And when it comes to scraping the wax itself, the idea is to really just scrape off all the wax that you melted onto the board. I know it seems a bit illogical, but you're going to be scraping off all the excess wax. As much of the wax that you can scrape off as possible needs to just come off. You want to do it in a clean way, but don't worry about over scraping the wax, because the idea is that we've melted the wax into the pores of the board and we're not going to be able to scrape those out. So I've got my scraper here. It's a longer one. I'm going to start here at the nose, and I'm just going to be applying quite a bit of pressure to scrape off as much of the wax as I can. Takes quite a bit of elbow grease, but it's a good workout. Your cardio points. Okay, I got most of the board scraped now. Sometimes it's hard once you get to the nose. The scraper doesn't fit so well on the nose because it's rounded. That's where I like to use the short end of the scraper. Just get right in there, scrape off any excess stuff there. Afterwards you can smooth it over with the brush. Sometimes you're going to find there's areas of the board that are really hard to get with just the scraper as it is. So what you can do is actually bend the scraper a little bit, and that enables you to get into some of those hard to reach corners or parts of the board. So I can see right here on the edge of the board it's not really getting scraped away just normally. So I'm going to bend my scraper a bit and just get right in there. Any exits. Once you've done a good pass, it's a good idea to just have a good look over, get your eye really close to the board and see if there's any spots that you missed, because there probably are a couple of spots that you ended up missing. So I'm going to go over it now and just do a double check. Once you get that double check done, then I like to do one more full pass if you've got the space for it. And once the waxing is done and the scraping is done, time for the brush. And the brush plays an important role. It doesn't seem that important, but it does. For one, it smooths out the rest of the wax that might be loose on the board. It gets it out of the way. At the same time, it creates these little micro grooves in the board that enable the water and the snow particles to pass through, giving the board, a better traction on the snow, better speed, and the ability to travel better on certain snow conditions. So give it a good brush. There are different types of brushes, and you can get really nerdy about it if you're into racing or something like that. I know they have really specific types of brushes. If you're just a regular snowboarder on the mountain, this is all you need to do. Important to go from tip to tail again. So I'm starting on the nose of my board, and if you can, run the entire length of the board, which gives you a better flow overall. So here we're gonna give that a try. You press fairly hard, but not too hard. The more you do it, the better. So if you really can take your time, do a bunch of passes, it creates a nice shine. It gives your board some good speed on the snow. Okay guys, so that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you feel motivated to go out and do your own board waxing at home. It's really not that hard, and it's actually really enjoyable. So I encourage you to go out, give it a try. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up, like it, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video. Go out and get busy boarding.